Hello, my name is Daniel and this is my dream triathlon and time trial race bike. I've just finished rebuilding it with some custom parts, some off the shelf parts, and I'll show you the complete spec breakdown. Let's get my head out of the way and have a look. Okay, so just before we get into the bike spec, I'm well aware I've just put up a clip of me riding this bike indoors, and I know how blessed we are with a number of bike fitters on the internet. So if you've got any thoughts about my time trial position, do let me know in the comment section down below, on the proviso that you smash that like and subscribe button. Deal? Okay, onto the bike. So this is my Felt IA1. I've had it a couple of years. It is a 2018 bike. It's a size 56, and the first thing I did when I got it was I had it painted this pretty obnoxious blue colour. It's like a candy blue. It's very metallic-y. The black felt writing has like a metallic flake in it. I absolutely love it. I genuinely think it's a performance enhancement. When you look down at your bike and you love it, your morale is high. In triathlons, in the transition area, I never run past this bike because it is so bright. I love it, but I know it's individual taste. But anyway, onto the spec. I'm going to start from the front of the bike and work my way backwards. Now, I did do one of these videos last year, so some of these things are the same, but a lot of it has changed. I'll point them out as I come to them. Starting at the front then, the extensions. These are Drag to Zero extensions. Now, I have seen some sneaky peeks of some new Drag to Zero extensions. However, they look a lot deeper than these ones and a lot more integrated. I think these are pretty good value. These are about £200 when I bought them, and the main purpose of these is to close the gap between your forearm and the extension pole. Cylinders are pretty bad aerodynamically, so closing that gap between there and your arm makes it less of a cylinder for the extension, and it's supposed to be pretty aero. I found them pretty comfy as well, and to be honest, the main reason I bought these extensions was because they're quite a bit longer than the USE or other extensions. I've got quite a long forearm, so it meant that if I had a normal extension, it was only coming like half on my hand. These ones I can get fully in my hand and hold on to so I don't crash, hopefully. Bike computer mount, I use the Project 76 TT mount. I'll sit it down in between the bars, helps me keep my head a little bit lower. That's really good. Moving down, I've got the Wattshop dual-sided armrest with the Wattshop phone, with the Wattshop pole clamp, and the Wattshop adjustable angled stack spacers. I might have got some of those words wrong, but essentially all of that is Wattshop. They're also bolted to the Wattshop adjustable plates. No, I'm not sponsored. Yes, I am broke. To be honest, with that sort of setup, you're better buying everything from one place. There's a lot more chance that it's all going to work together, and that was very much why I did so. It seems like a quality product. It's not cheap, but that's the area of the bike where I want to make sure it's absolutely going to work as planned and it's reliable and solid and strong, all those things. Going down a little bit further, this was the biggest change I made this winter, was the base bar. Now, the IA1 has a stem, or did have a stem, which bolts to the base bar, so it's like the Felt's own proprietary sort of makeup. That was okay, but the bolt spacing on the stack was really narrow, which limited aftermarket options, and I also found it to be pretty unstable in terms of security. It was a bit flexible. So I had to try and source this stem. I eventually sourced it through Crank's Bike Shop in Wales, thank you very much for that, and it's called the Felt Dagger stem. The reason you need this is because to be able to get a normal 31.8mm clamp on the end, you have to have this stem, because the nose cone on the Felts bolts to the stem, so any normal stem isn't going to be able to do that. There are other hacks you can do with Velcro and stuff, but to be honest, I didn't want to bodge anything on this. I wanted it to be absolutely correct. So after a while and quite a bit of money, I got that stem sorted, which then enabled me to use the Planet X Selkoff base bars. I don't think there's much difference between a top tier base bar and a mid tier base bar, to be honest. This is carbon, it's pretty aero, it's pretty narrow, it's only 40 centimeters wide, and I think that will absolutely do the job just fine. It wasn't too expensive either. Moving out towards the brake handles, the material you can see there is really good. It's really anti-slip, especially when you're sweaty. Now, this is actually fishing pole grip tape. It's essentially heat shrink. So you put it on over the bar, heat it up. I just used a hairdryer, and it shrinks around the pole that it's around. Now, I've got underneath there a SRAM ETAP blip, so that means I can change the gears on the base bar, and because that tape is over the top of it, it's pretty aero. Brake levers aren't really anything interesting to report home about. I know you can get fancy carbon ones, but these are just bog standard aluminium ones. I've got some work to do with tidying the wires, I know, don't come at me yet, bro. Moving slightly further back then, hydration. Now this, you'll notice, is not standard. Inside the frame, I have a bladder from a specialised shiv, the Mark 1 shiv, which holds about 650 to 700 millilitres of fluid. And then this top tube thing here is a 3D printed sort of module. This is available on Shapeaway. Somebody kindly designed this. and that enables you to bolt in the bladder to the top so you can refill it on the fly. You do lose the storage on the top there is normally like a food storage tube there, but due to the nature of racing that I do, I find this is more usable than a food storage thing. It enables me to have a straw up to the extensions. I can have my own nutrition in there, there's no danger of dropping it. I can fill it up on the fly from feed stations and things. I find that really handy. I'm just toying with whether I run this straw above or below the arm rests. When I run it above, I can't drink when I'm sat up, which keeps me in the aero position longer, but sometimes you go up a hill, it's a good chance to drink, and I'm not able to, so I'm just thinking about that. And I don't know what the aero penalty is of that either. The other hydration that I have on this bike is I have an X-Lab Gorilla bottle cage behind the saddle. This is I can't remember what the bracket is to be honest, but I've glued it all together so it doesn't move at all. These cages are the only ones that I found that don't drop bottles on rough ground, so love that. And that's about it for hydration. If I'm on a really long event or if I'm doing an Ironman or something, I might put a cage on the frame, but round bottles on the down tube isn't really very aero, but sometimes you need to drink, so it depends on what the course is like and the weather and so on. Saddle is a Pro Aero Fuel saddle. These saddles aren't very cheap, but I do find them okay for me. I still get a bit uncomfortable over long rides, but it's okay. I don't think you're ever going to be really comfortable on a TT bike. It is only the aluminium railed version. I have got a carbon railed version on the indoor bike for some reason. I might swap those around next year, but I don't really think that's the be all and end all for my performance. Okay, sort of in line is the crank set, so we might as well cover the whole group set while we're there. That is a 58 tooth 1x chainring. I will pretty much always use that chainring. However, if I'm doing a really hilly event, I do have a front mech for this, which is why I leave the front mech hanger on. And I also have a 5339 chainring setup, which goes on the same crank, so I don't need to swap the cranks. Cassette wise, I'll change that based on what course I'm riding. At the minute, that's an 11 to 30. I find that a pretty good range. I do like running an 1126 SRAM cassette, which I've got, or an 1128 if it's like rolling, but sometimes I think it's better to have slightly bigger spacings between gears and know you've got that lower first gear, particularly when you've only got a 58 tooth front chainring, but it is nice having the close ratio sometimes. The crank set is a Rotor 2-in power crank set. This is new for this year. I haven't used this before. I wanted to go to a crank-based power meter because I wanted to use these pedals, which are the Wahoo Speedplay Aero pedals. I know that Speedplay did do these before Wahoo bought Speedplay, but I've only recently bought these. I don't know if the gains are as genuine as people make out. It's supposed to be a solid measurable gain, so of course I had to get another pair of shoes, different sets of cleats and so on, but I haven't ridden them on the road yet. They do look good, it looks like it should be aero, but the proof will be in the pudding I suppose. The crank length is 175. Now I know this comes up quite a lot with time trial bike fits. In honesty, it's 175 because that's what was on the crank that I found secondhand on the time trial forum. However, I am 6'2", so I do get on with longer cranks quite okay. I ride 175 on my road bike and my crit bike, so I think it's all right. I did previously use a 172.5mm crank, and I just don't think the difference is big enough to notice anything. Maybe there is, let me know if I'm wrong, but I just don't sort of buy into that such a small change can make a measurable difference. Who knows? The chain and jockey wheels are kindly provided to me by NRG Chains. That is the only sponsored part on this bike. So it's a wax chain. I'll pretty much always run a wax chain on this bike, which is a rainbow colour, which looks mint. And the jockey wheels are ceramic bearing, but they are standard size. Now NRG are working on some other things. However, when I've used oversized pulley wheels in the past, I've never been able to make them clear the disc wheel in first gear. So these work for me in that you get that small gain from the ceramic bearings and having a freer spinning jockey wheel without the hassle of it hitting the disc wheel in first gear. And also those are gold, so gold's fast, we know that. There's a link to NRG in the description down below, along with a discount code as well if you're interested in getting a wax chain ahead of race season. The actual group set itself is SRAM Red 11 speed, so the old group set now. However, I think this is the best group set you can buy for a time trial bike. I don't buy into the 12 speed necessity at the minute, particularly when they come with a smaller front chainring. It just goes against everything that we know that science has showed us with regard to chainline efficiency. Having a bigger chain ring and sitting in the middle of the block at the back is more efficient than having a smaller chain ring and being further down the block, but I'm just an amateur, so who knows. I like that it's interchangeable. I can just put a mech on and off without having to wire it up. I can use the blips wirelessly, like it just works. I said I was starting at the front and I missed the thing that is actually at the front of the bike, so wheels. Now these wheels are both Walker Brothers. I bought the front wheel brand new from Walker Brothers and I bought the disc secondhand from a friend. So the front wheel is a tri-spoke. It's actually 58mm in depth, and of course 3 spokes. I run this tubeless with the Vittoria Corsa Speed. I pretty much always use a Vittoria Corsa Speed, to be honest. I am interested to test the new Continental time trial tyre, but it seems to be in such short supply that that's not likely anytime soon. So I just make sure that I put a fresh pair on for the beginning of the race season, and this bike doesn't do many miles at all. I have tested that front wheel of the wind tunnel against a mid-section front wheel as well, and it was significantly faster, and it looks cool. The disc wheel is currently set up clincher, however it is tubeless compatible, and I will be making it tubeless for this year. Again, Vittoria Corsa Speed, I use a 23mm on the front, and it's currently got a 25 on the back, but I am going to swap it to a 23 because I managed to get a good deal on some 23mm Vittoria Corsas, and I don't think it makes that much difference, especially on the back. And when this frame doesn't have a huge amount of clearance, a little bit more space will be okay on the back, I think. The other thing behind the saddle is this tool storage box. That's quite handy. I don't know if it's more aero with or without it. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't, but it's handy just to carry spares, multi-tool, ETAP battery, CO2 canister, those sorts of things that I need on longer events. And yeah, I think, in a nutshell, that is my Felt IA, my dream time trial triathlon bike. Now, I know dream might be in inverted commas. Yes, if I had 50 grand, I might buy something different. But you know what? There's not really a huge amount I would change on this, to be honest. So there we go. But maybe let me know down below what you would change on this if this was your bike. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.